Welcome and karibuni to a room of Zanzibar. Today I'm going to share with you on how I'm making this beautiful French dessert called opera cake. And it can be overwhelming because it has a lot of steps, but once you understand the process, it's easy. So I'm going to start with my coffee syrup. I've got some coffee and I'm adding some sugar. I'm going to bring this to a boil to half quantity. And for the sponge, we are going to use the almond meal. If you don't have almond meal, you can grind your own. Just use blanched almonds. And once you have ground it, you're going to sift and then also add the powdered sugar and sift it together and then mix well to combine and keep it on the side. Now for the coffee syrup, once the coffee syrup has come to half the quantity, just remove it from the heat and let it cool. For the sponge, I'm going to start with my meringue. Make sure the container you use has no fat of any kind. And once the eggs have come to a soft peaks, you're going to add the sugar and then keep whisking until you get stiff peaks, just like this, okay, or even more. Right, and then we're going to do the yellows. This is a whole egg. You're just going to beat this till you get double the volume and your eggs are fluffy and ribbon stage. And then you're going to add the mixture of almond meal and the sugar. You can do this in two batches or in one batch, and make sure that the container or the bowl you use is big, not like mine. Mine is small today, I don't know why, and so it's difficult to mix. And then you're gonna add the second batch. Just fold in gently until it's well combined, and once the mixture is combined, you're going to add the melted butter to it and then combine it well. Okay, then once that's well combined, you're going to add the meringue, the egg whites that you did earlier. Okay, this can be divided into 2 or 3 portions. You're just going to do it gently. You don't want to deflate the air. You want your sponge to be spongy, even though it does not rise as much, but it should be spongy. Okay, and we're going to start preheating our oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 200 centigrade, and we are also going to use 2 trays for this. So I'm using my batter as a glue to just stick my parchment paper on the tray, on the baking tray. And like I mentioned, we're going to use 2 because we want 4 sponges. Okay, so you're going to divide the batter into 2. Just pour half into one tray and spread evenly. You want the sponge to be even because it's going to affect your final product when your sponge is not even. Okay, so this is done. We baked this for about you're going to bake it for about 5 to 8 minutes, and you can remove any crispy parts on the edge. Now I'm going to remove this from the tray so that it cools faster. Now you can also use another tray if you have, because this is hot, and flip it over and then keep your sponge there. So I've put the parchment paper on top of the sponge, and I'm going to flip this over so I get the bottom on the top. Okay, and then just keep it aside to cool till when you're ready to use it. And then in the meantime, I'm going to start working with my buttercream. And with the buttercream, we are going to start with the sugar. We're going to make a syrup. This is water and sugar. I'm going to make a syrup to come to 121 degrees centigrade or 250 Fahrenheit. And also we got the ganache going on. I have got my chocolate here melted in from the microwave, but you can melt it in the microwave or you can melt it in the bain-marie, which is basically having a hot water underneath and you put the ball on the top, but make sure you do not have any water getting into the chocolate. So you're just going to stir this until you get your chocolate is completely mixed, and then keep it in the fridge. Cover it and keep it in the fridge to thicken a bit. Okay, now for the buttercream again, I'm going to do the yellows and just beat this for about 2 minutes. We are not looking for any volume. Now the sugar syrup is what's going to cook these eggs. I know most of you are going to be like, oh, these are raw eggs. No, the sugar syrup is what's going to cook these eggs. That's why we wanted the temperature. Now I'm sorry here, I was just pouring the sugar syrup into the eggs. You want the mixer to be on low, and the sugar syrup is going to go in thin threads, and you don't want it to touch the mixing bowl or the whisk. Okay, and once you have finished with the sugar syrup, you're just going to increase the speed and uh, whisk till you get this kind of consistency, and then you're going to add the coffee syrup, and also make sure that the sugar syrup, I mean the eggs and the sugar, has cooled down completely before you add the butter, because if you add the butter while your mixture is still warm, it's going to be really runny. But what you can do is you can put it in the fridge for about 20 minutes and then come back and continue whisking it, and it will be all right. Okay, so now I'm still adding the butter, and once that's done, you're just going to beat it for like 2-3 minutes extra. And here's my nice and fluffy, this is a French buttercream. Okay, so once that's done, I've got my sponge here, and I'm going to divide it into two. Like I say, we need 3 sponges for the cake, and I usually use extra, making another little opera cake with that. Okay, so I'm going to keep 1/2, and you're just going to turn this over so you can work with it easily. And so you remember this was the bottom, yeah? So it's still going to be the bottom, because we're not going to flip this over again. So you're going to add the ganache, spread the ganache well, and it's very important to have all the layers evenly, as much as you can. Sometimes it's difficult in the sense you may do it evenly and then you don't know where along the way it went wrong. Okay, so try, because when you slice the cake, you want to see all those layers. They come in very beautiful line, and they're also even. Okay, so now I've got my ganache here, spreading it, and I'm going to put a parchment paper on the top, and then flip this over. Now you can use another tray to to place your sponge, because you're going to put this in the fridge. So whatever container or tray or plate you're going to use, make sure that's what you're going to keep it right now. Okay, then I'm going to apply the coffee syrup. Now the coffee syrup usually is done with espresso, but I use a decaf because kids, and also it has some alcohol, you know but I don't use alcohol, so I'm just using the coffee. So once the coffee is you've spreaded the coffee syrup on the sponge, you're going to add the spread the buttercream on top of it. Okay, make sure again it's even. This is a very rich cake, and uh, I really love this cake. I don't make it that often, only on special occasion, and it's worth the trouble. And you can do all these things ahead of time. You can do the syrup maybe a day in advance. You can do the ganache. Okay, now I'm putting my second layer of the sponge and the coffee syrup. Yeah, like I mentioned, you can do the coffee syrup and the ganache and the buttercream all ahead of time. And then, like 2 or 3 days in advance, it's perfect. And then you can just do the sponge on the last day. Okay, then we are doing the ganache. Now the ganache is going to be basically at the bottom, in the middle, and on the top. Now the first layer, if you notice, we didn't put the ganache, it went underneath, okay, because we flipped it over. Okay, so now I'm doing the ganache, and I do have a recipe on how to do the ganache. You can check it out, because I know here it's a bit faster. Okay, so now I've placed my third layer of the sponge. I'm doing the coffee again, and then the buttercream. Okay, so again evenly. And this is the last layer. You want to make sure that it's really, really proper, because your final product, it's really, really gonna make a difference. Okay, so for this one, again, it's the ganache. So it's the coffee, the buttercream, and the ganache. And then once that's done, you're gonna put this in the fridge. Keep it in the fridge for about 3 to 4 hours, or overnight. That's perfect. Okay, so this is gonna go in the fridge. Now I've got some hot water here and my knife, and you want to dip the hot water in the I mean the knife in the hot water, and just remove the edges first, the uneven edges, because it's hard. Remember, this was in the fridge for about 4 hours, so your butter has kind of solidified, and the ganache is hard. The chocolate, when it goes in the fridge, it hardens too. And also you want to make sure the knife, every time you slice, you cut in, you want to clean up the knife, because you want your slices to look neat. That's all. It's just all about presentation. Okay. And yeah, normally I would serve very small slices for this, because this cake is very rich. As addictive as it is, it's very rich. But today I'm making this little bit extra slices, extra sizes. uh, I have a request for this size, this particular size, but if I serve it at home, I usually make it smaller. Okay, and I've done this cake so many times, but each time I have decorated it differently, with raspberries, and sometimes with chocolate. They call it gold leaf. You can do a lot of garnishes, and then you're gonna dust some cocoa powder for the finishing touch. And I just can't wait to show you how my slices look. They look so adorable. And nobody would believe that you made this at home. They'll think you just bought it from some bakery. Okay? And thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed this. For more recipes, please visit me at Aroma of Zanzibar. Thank you.